I'm Cookie Miller, and this is Worth the Wait. Join me every week as I explore profound weight loss solutions beyond just diet and exercise, because a lifestyle change starts with changing your mind. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Worth the Wait. I am your host, Cookie Miller, and today we are going to be talking from the topic, It is that deep. It is that deep. And I decided to go ahead and talk about this because I made a post on Instagram that was kind of in regards to this. And this topic is something I've talked about over the years. If you're new around here, I've lost 100 pounds. I'm now a certified personal trainer and a coach and a lot of things. But it's very important to me that I grab a hold of, especially those women who are where I once was, trying to lose a significant amount of weight, and perhaps being surrounded by people who maybe did not have as much weight to lose, or people who did have weight to lose, but for them, it wasn't that deep, right? And for the people who maybe did not have to lose weight around you, it's not that deep to them either because they can't relate, right? So it's like, oh, girl, it's not that deep. Like, you look good. You look fine the way you are. You're good the way you are. You don't need to, change. And people tend to not realize that when you have a problem with your weight that causes you to even need to lose 100 pounds, it's that deep. It's that deep. So for me, it was finding out and figuring out, how did I get to this point anyway? And not in a way where I was really beating myself up, but in a way where I was reflecting and trying to understand the things that triggered me and why. And it took going back to childhood trauma. It took therapy. It took it took a whole rebirth, for me to get to this point. So I understand how people from the outside can look at someone who has to lose weight and, maybe they have a little bit less weight to lose, like 50 pounds or something. And you kind of just look and you're just like, it's not that serious. Like, you look fine. But it's not about that. And when I first started out, I thought that it was about that. I truly thought it was about that. And I would say even once I became a certified trainer and all those things, I still kind of thought it was about that. So it took a lot of years and it took a lot of growth to get to this point where I fully acknowledge that it is that deep, because I've gone through it. In hindsight is 2020, right? So the purpose of today's episode is to be able to help you identify if it really is that deep for you and how you should approach weight loss when it is that deep. When it's not the 10 pounds to fit into the whatever, and it's not the, 5 more pounds so that I can get into this certain size. When it's like deeply rooted in you, some of the things that I felt back then were just this really extreme sense of being out of control. I was out of control. There was nothing that I could really get my hands on and keep it steady. If you can close your eyes and visualize what I mean, and if you've ever been in this place, it was trying this diet, trying that diet, trying to be completely anorexic, not eat at all, bulimia, eating food, throwing the food up. It was that deep. You know what I'm saying? And when I was going through all of that, it's not like there were people just waving this huge banner saying, look, I've been through this too, and especially not Black women, right? Especially not many black women that were out there that I could see that were doing this. Now, for context, I was losing my weight back in 2013, 2014. And before that, you could pretty much put every year, starting with the year I was freaking born, like literally, of just trying to lose weight. That's what it feels like, you know? And I'll tell you guys this story because I told this story to my clients, and this will be my second time really saying it out loud. But it was so deep for me that I can remember being in the 5th grade, and the school that I went to, there were like these pods, you know, like in essence, just a collection of classrooms, you know, in the specific area. And so each grade had their own little pod. And the 5th grade had a pod, and the teachers after school, they would roll the TV out. I know I'm aging myself here. But they rolled the TV out after school was over, and they would get together and do Taibo. These teachers, 5th grade teachers, they're, you know, most of them, as I look back, were like in their probably late 20s, no older than 40 for sure, you know. And they're doing Taibo. And I asked one of my teachers, I said, can I do that with you guys? Is it okay if I stay after school and do that? And when I was telling this to my clients a couple weeks ago, it was the first time I said it out loud. And I felt such an enormous sadness for that little girl. Do you know what I mean? Like, for this little girl who was who knew, right, whether it was based on bullies saying things about my weight at that time, or just whether it was just about my own feelings about myself, I knew that I wasn't healthy. And I knew that I needed to do something to be more active. And being in the 5th grade, for whatever reason, I didn't think like go hang out with my friends or, you know, go and play a team sport or just something a kid would do. I thought like an adult, like, let me go join in with these adults. And if you know me, and a lot of people don't, let me start with that. There may be a lot of people who think that they know me, but if you really, really know me deeply, you know that this is rooted, like childhood stuff, right? I'm the oldest sibling. I've always been the one who's taken care of everybody. And so it made sense for me to act as an adult in that moment, and then try to like solve this problem in a very adult way of like, I mean, can you imagine being an adult right now? And let's say you're a teacher and maybe you're new or something, and there's all these teachers and you kind of walk past and you see them getting together and you're like, oh, I would want to do that. That's kind of scary. Can you imagine like as an adult in that situation and how you would approach this group of teachers who like had a clique, who used to get together after school and do a little Taibo? You know what I'm saying? That's nerve-wracking to me now. So for me to get to that point as a child where I even had the confidence, I guess, to just straight up ask if I could join, you know, that was wild. But I did Taibo with my teachers for I don't know how long, but one of my teachers used to bring me home from school and stuff after I would do that with them. And yeah, it's just, I hadn't said it out loud until then, and now this is my second time saying it out loud. But I wanted to bring that up because that is just an example of how deep it really was. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go on to, you know, after that time, I did eventually get into sports. So like 6th grade, you know, I got into track. But I was just always the bigger girl, and I was a sprinter, but I was still big. And it didn't help that I'm very heavy chested. So it's like, girl, not you trying to sprint with these, double D's or whatever, you know. I developed very, very early. So I always had the boobs, always had the big boobs. But anyway, I guess I just want you guys to really, especially if you're out there and you're struggling with your weight and you're trying like these diets and these things and these quick fixes, and oh well, I will just I'll just do this juice thing for 30 days and then I'll lose 30 pounds that way, and then I'll be, halfway to my goal, or however you're thinking about it in your head. I need you to pause. And if for you can say, I have a story like that, or I remember a time where I did something that was just so, it was such a like mind shifting type of thing that it tells me that this was that deep. You know what I'm saying? Like, can you think of a moment like that? Anything that you can relate? Because if you can, then you have to stop trying to fix these deeply, deeply, deeply rooted problems with very shallow solutions. And I want to shout out to Pastor Michael Todd right now, because I have been watching and listening to his recent sermons on being anchored and going into the deep. And that definitely had something to do with my reflection on the depth within my life in general, like the depth within who I am now currently. And then of course that made me think about, weight loss, because this has been so much a part of my life personally that for me, there's always a parallel. There's always a lesson in the weight loss, and in the weight loss failures, even there's a life lesson in it for me. So if you feel like you can go and you can pinpoint those things, and you can say, wow, like there's something that happened in my childhood that led to this. If you don't have a therapist, listen, I would argue that perhaps you should start there. I think everyone should be born with a therapist. Like, I truly, truly do. But again, the biggest thing to take away here is, if you can go back to a time like that and think about a deep pain, because I had moments in weight loss that were deep pain. Now, this story I've told before, but this story, I was in college and I was on one of my weight loss kicks. It was probably something to do with P90X and eating a certain, probably very restrictive way. I won't even say probably, for sure, a restrictive way. The problem is I can't tell you if that was no carb or if that was, because at this point there were so many damn things that I tried. You know what I'm saying? But having tried so many different diets and fads and things, I had this moment where I was in college. I'm in my college apartment on campus, and my boyfriend at the time was trying to encourage me, and I didn't want that. I wanted in that moment to beat myself up. And it got to the point where I started I just remember cheese, y'all. Listen, I went in the fridge, and for whatever reason, when I close my eyes, I can just see cheese, like slices of cheese or shredded cheese, y'all. I picked up all the food and I just started throwing it. Now, this is a college apartment, so it's, it's an inside corridor. There's a hallway where everyone's front door is right there. And I'm just throwing food down the hall, like out of my apartment. I'm having a breakdown. I'm crying. I'm screaming. I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of trying to lose this weight. So at this point, I'm like, I'm over food. I'm like, forget, I just won't eat at all. That was now my solution, right? But obviously looking back, being older, being wiser, being firm in who I am, and having gotten to this other side, I can look back and say, wow, girl, it was that deep for you. You were hurting. Like, you were really hurting because You couldn't get a hold of this. And again, when you go back to my childhood and you go back to who I am, the leader, had to be an adult before I really was an adult. Always very successful, always, I had a 4.0 in college or in high school. I got a full ride scholarship to college. I went to magnet schools. I went to private schools. I aced every test, so I was successful, until I wasn't. Something about that era of my life was so, it wasn't necessarily broken in the moment, but all of the brokenness from the past had just created this almost like volcanic eruption in my present back then. So for me, when maybe people who have been like athletes all their lives, or people who just haven't had to deal with their weight, or people just who maybe they had parents who were able to show them how to eat well and balancing their meals and things like that, or whatever. And when they look at someone who has a lot of weight to lose and they say it's not that deep, or even if you are the person who has a lot of weight to lose and you try to trick yourself into saying it's not that deep, like, girl, be real. Be real, because you don't get to 100 pounds overweight unless it's deep. It's not that serious. You're just doing what you do. You're just living life. You're just not worried about society standards. All right, I'm not worried about society standards anyway. You don't even understand how beyond that I am. Y'all just met me. I'm not even who I was. I'm not even going to be who I am right now recording this when you listen to it. I'm probably past this by now. I'm probably on something else. I'm probably laughing at this episode. You know what I'm saying? Because I've realized that I have to keep evolving. I'm not going to reach it. If I reach it, then I'm not even thinking with the full capacity of my mind. But I'm going to digress because I feel where I'm going, and I'm going to just chill. I'm going to just chill on that part. I'll save that for another episode. But I hope that this episode makes you really reflect on your life. Reflect on your relationship with food. Reflect on your relationship with exercise. Reflect on how long you lay in the bed. Reflect on your activity or lack of activity. Reflect on all these things and determine for yourself first whether or not it's that deep. Don't let society tell you it's not that deep, and don't let somebody who has never lived in your struggle tell you that it's not that deep. It might be that deep for you. And in my case, it was that deep for me. So the weight loss physically didn't happen until the mindset started to shift. I needed internal mindset shifting things to begin to happen. And I don't want to leave you guys without something actionable that you can do. So what did I do to get there? Over the years, I eventually had a therapist, but in the earlier days, self-help books, leaning into people who are really firm in their fitness journey, leaning into people who are really firm in their spiritual journey. I did a lot of listening through those years. Say less. Say less, girl. 'Cause you talking. It was not until I was quiet. It was not until I was quiet. You know what I'm saying? You're saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Everybody look at me. I did this. I did. Hey, shh. Because you're talking, it's not getting you to where you're trying to go. So back then I was very quiet, and I just took in a lot of things. I basically refueled myself from years of not being fueled. I was trying to get fuel from food, but from bad food, right? And I hate that because I don't like to put food in good and bad categories, but I was eating just all the time. Y'all don't understand. Or y'all do, right? Because, wait, I got to remember my audience. Y'all understand. I was eating myself into depression, into these crazy whatever type. I mean, because this whole throwing the cheese thing, that wasn't the first time that I had this deep feeling of anger and just all of these old feelings or whatever that I didn't realize that I was holding on to coming up. But yeah, I just want you guys to be able to reflect on your own journeys and figure out if it is that deep for you. And if you happen to be listening to this and, weight is not an issue for you, physical weight, remember, weight can be anything. Weight might be a friendship that you need to let go of. And weight might be a habit that you need to let go of, right? So you can replace that with whatever. But at the end of the day, I just need you to focus on the depth of the problem so that you can stop trying to fix your problem with shallow solutions. You can't fix a deeply rooted in childhood trauma weight issue with 30 days of no carbs. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, So I encourage you to go deeper. I encourage you to change your mindset around weight loss. I encourage you to really dig and find out, when everything else stops and when it's quiet, what is really going on with you? What do your habits and the things that you're doing and the place that you're in say about who you are? And if you don't like what you see or what you hear when you think about that question, then now you need to ask yourself, when are you going to stop playing around and really do this? I think that's it. I think we'll leave it at that. I didn't expect this to go where it did, but I'm glad it did. And I truly, truly hope that this resonates with somebody. My name is Cookie Miller. This is the Worth the Wait podcast. You guys can find me on Instagram at Cookie Miller, youtube.com/Cookie Miller, and pretty much just everywhere as Cookie Miller. I hope you guys will definitely come and follow me there. Check out some of the tips and tricks that I give on Instagram and on YouTube. And come back next week. We will have a new episode. So I'll see you guys then, or I'll talk to y'all then. It's, I'm a YouTube girl. So the podcasting thing would be like throwing me for a loop, but I'll see y'all next week. I'll talk to y'all next week. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.